Good evening. Good evening to all of you. Good evening, good evening, good evening. We'll wait 2-3 minutes for everybody to join in. I welcome you all. Good to see you again. Some of you. Good evening, good evening. I'm audible, I'm visible. I can see a preview here, so I know that I am. Just check that I'm audible and visible both. Can you just confirm that to me also? Yes, sir. Okay, perfect. Great. Good evening, good evening. I'm good. I hope all of you are also fine. Have a little bit of a throat niggle, but everything is perfect. So don't be surprised if I cough, but yeah, generally I'm perfect. Okay. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Can we skip reading the magazine? No, magazine is for revision. It is important. Are you teaching world history live session? Vikram, yes, when it will start in the morning batch, I will take it. Yes. What is the timing? 8:30 to 10:30. Kibarai, the process changes, but yes, more or less the topics obviously will not be the same, have to be the same because the same thing we cover every day and then we do it in a consolidated manner. Good evening, good evening. So there are no, when you take modern history, I think the weekend batch which is coming is with me. See, the point is that this weekly current affairs is based on the concept that for the last 1 week, whatever has happened, I have to discuss it with you. Now, if you have been following CNA, if you've been following other things, there would be intersections, but the emphasis changes. In the CNA, it is more about the article itself. Here, it is more, not about the article, it is about understanding it more holistically. So that the emphasis concept changes. World history are important. Yes, world history is important. Too much. You want to hear that it isn't important, but it is. Okay. Thank you, Mumtaz. Can I skip CNA? Then you have to read the newspaper. Okay. Webinar and magazine enough? Yes, it is enough. Good evening. So, see, I hope that you understand this difference and you have been told about this difference that Thursday webinars are more about mains based current affairs and Tuesday webinars are about PT. So here we do more topics, but with a different emphasis. We'll practice through prelims questions also. We'll have, after every topic, prelims questions. There are 8 topics which we are going to cover. And thereafter, what we are going to do here, if you are getting confused between CNA and this, is that there are 3 to 4 ways in which you can cover current affairs. That is a daily thing. That is to substitute reading the newspaper. That has more emphasis on the article. Here it is about consolidating the week in that regard. Okay. Is history important or geography, sir? Both. Nobody's ever cleared this examination without doing either the 4 basic fundamental topics, which is history, geography, polity, and economics. You have to know these 4 irrespective of anything. The SMEs already pushed you the 8 topics. We'll come to that. I'm waiting for 1 more minute and then we'll start. Can we skip world history for prelims? There is no world history in prelims. That is where that you will get to know once you will come to in class, or you will be with me in class when I'll tell you world history only comes in mains, not in prelims examination. However, it gives you a better understanding of international relations and modern India. That's a separate issue altogether. Yes, Tara, that was the basic point. Simple, straightforward, important topics for the week. Okay, good evening. Now, the topics which we covered today, good evening to all of you. I hope that you are ready for the next 2 hours. Some of you may have seen these topics previously. If you've been following CNA, very good. If not, then this is where you cover everything. We are now consolidating the week in that regard. So, Israel-Palestine issue. However, the emphasis is going to be 2 to 3. This has been done previously also. I think last week also they did Israel-Palestine. However, today I want to discuss 3 aspects about it very specifically. Therefore, I've picked it up. Thereafter, India's hunger index ranking. Interesting. Thereafter, Operation Ajay again links to the first topic. Asiatic wild dog. ferry between India and Sri Lanka. Again, two very small topics. Then this is going to be very interesting, which is the Nobel Prize in Economics, a very interesting topic with regards to gender. Then P20 summit, and last but not the least, Air Force ensign has been changed. So these are the 8 topics we cover. And the simple straightforward point is, we are prelims oriented. Please understand this point. When you are prelims oriented, you have to know more about the facts, smaller details, and we'll practice a prelims question also. When it is mains, it is more theoretical. But what I will do is, as always, if you've been through any of my classes or any of my videos, you will know I will give you first basic understanding, which is the structure in which it works. Thereafter, we'll go into the details. We'll look at the PPT, and thereafter we will revise, and we will here do one more thing, which is evaluate your understanding through a PT question. These are the 4 steps through which we go. 2 hours. 2 hours. What will happen is, we'll revise, we'll evaluate. You have to learn here also, and you don't have to do these topics again. The concept and the topics obviously will intersect with other videos also, because the videos in a way are based on larger concepts which exist throughout the month. So Tuesday to Tuesday you will see repetition, and that is a very but obvious concept. But here the emphasis changes because we have to consolidate everything. So if everybody is here, can we start? Yes, you ready? First topic. Okay, now let's talk about Israel-Palestine. Now, there are 2 to 3 things which have already been discussed with you. When it comes to the international relations aspect, when it comes to its history, these things are something which are repeated in static, that are repeated in multiple places. And my emphasis here is to give you 3 larger concepts and more important concepts which are now emerging. First, I want to talk about a war which is called the Yom Kippur War, because people are talking about this war quite a lot. Thereafter, I want to talk about the aspect related to why did Hamas do what it has done. And thereafter, the third and the most interesting thing, which recently came in an article, you may have gone through it also, which is how does it fit in with the rules of war or laws of war. And this is something quite interesting, because this gives us an understanding of something going beyond static in that regard. So let's first discuss the pretext here. See, we understand that anti-Semitism, which is the discrimination of Jews, you would have heard about it if you've gone through world history with me, or if you've gone through any form of world history related news, you will be talking about something called anti-Semitism. Now, I want to tell you something very straightforward, and these are the things which I can discuss here rather than in, for example, a CNA, which is that, see, anti-Semitism is nothing new. Semite is a group of languages. They are called the Semitic languages, in which Hebrew and Arabic comes through. And therefore, the concept of anti-Semitism is somehow built into Christianity, because it is believed that the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ was crucified by the Jews. That is an understanding wherein Judaism and what we call as Christianity already have a problematic relationship between each other. Now, throughout history, different forms of punishments, different forms of discrimination based concept, Jews have been in a way discriminated against socially, excluded, branded. When it comes to Egypt, they were the ones who were used as forced labor. And therefore, Jews have gone through quite a lot when it comes to their history because of this basic understanding with Christianity. However, when we talk about the way Hitler treated Jews, everything changes, because now Judaism is not seen as a socially discriminated concept. He goes for what we call as scientific anti-Semitism. Scientific anti-Semitism is the concept where Hitler's concept was, because Jews are greedy, he now starts to create a certain caricature. Jews are greedy, Jews are enemies of the state. He links what we call as Marxism, Bolshevism, which is socialism, with the concept of the Judaistic religion or Jews, which is called Jewish Bolshevism. He now finds a solution. Can anybody tell me what is the solution which Hitler comes up with? What is the solution which Hitler comes up with? Hitler's solution was very good. What we call as the Holocaust, which is extermination, genocide, killing of Jews. And therefore, throughout Europe, 6 million Jews, 60 lakh Jews were killed in what are called as concentration camps. But if you've gone through again, when you will go through world history with me, I will tell you, he had nothing specific against the Jews. It was just about creating a certain image of the Jew because he had to take their economic jobs and he had to go after Poland. And therefore, he was trying to create the Jew as the other. And therefore, 6 million Jews will be killed in concentration camps. Now, after the Second World War, there is a movement which in turn leads to this concept of Israel, wherein, and again, this has been discussed with you previously, I'm just trying to give you a basic summary here, wherein Israel is the homeland of all Jews in which they will not be discriminated against. However, because they are closer to, or they are finding this homeland in a very contested zone which we today call as Palestine, or the areas next to what we call as the Jerusalem sector, now there is a natural conflict between two major religions in this sector, though there are three major religions, which is Muslims, Sunni Muslims, which is Palestine, and the Jews in Israel. And therefore, the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims now have an intersection in Israel. Now, you will say, sir, that if Israelis were finding a homeland, and when they started to expand in the Palestinian sector, how is that the Israelis, Palestine, see, Afreen, try to understand this. Palestine is a state which is sometimes recognized. Certain countries recognize it as a country. Certain countries do not recognize it as a country. UN recognizes Palestine as a state plus a country, but not every country does it. And therefore, whenever I talk about Palestine, if I say country or if I say state, it is on which context you're talking about. For example, India doesn't really give Palestine a proper country status because it talks about Israel and Palestine, but we give aid to Palestine as a state. So the problem is that this area was contested since its inception as Israel and Palestine, but that is not what we are discussing here. The point is, wherein I want to discuss is that how is a country and state different? See, a country has to have international recognition. It has to be a sovereign state. It has to have a constitution. State comes after the country, which is that you have a country, a state, a nation state. Nation and state. Nation is the people, state is the government. So Palestinian government exists. Hamas is a terrorist organization of Palestine. You're going forward. That is why I'm telling you, stay at where I am. Then I will tell you, the fact is that Palestine has a government, or what we call as government in exile. However, it is not recognized as a nation by everyone. That is the problem. That is the struggle in which you see this problem. So again, repeating myself because a lot of you are asking me to repeat, but joining late. I have everybody's entry point. Please understand this point. Christianity and Judaism has a historical problem that is linked to the history of Christianity and Judaism, that is linked to the problem of the Jews with the Christians, and therefore anti-Semitism is inbuilt. Now please pay attention. Anti-Semitism is inbuilt into Christianity. Jews have suffered quite a lot. Hitler took it to a next level altogether because of the concept of extermination, scientific anti-Semitism, which is called the Holocaust. Thereafter, there is a movement to bring all Jews together, and that is the movement which leads to the formation of Israel. Israel, however, is created in a contested space wherein till today there is no clarity who was first. And more than that, the point I want to emphasize here is Holocaust is a very specific thing, genocide is a generic term. Now, please try to understand this point. How is that Israel is such a big power? If today anti-Semitism means discrimination against Semitic languages, which is Hebrew, how if today we create a state, can we reach to the levels of what we call as Israel? Tell me. Palestine is a Muslim state. No. Very simply, Israel has one person's support, and that is the US. See, if you look at the Jewish population, now please pay attention, because a lot of you are asking me questions which are not related to this. Are we all on the same page? Do we understand anti-Semitism? Do we understand the problem of how Judaism has a problematic history with Christianity, and what is the context in which Israel was born, and how Israelis in a way always look at themselves as a concept of a victim? Do we understand this? Because the Jews always talk about themselves as victims of very strong history of 400 years of discrimination and Hitler's anti-Semitic scientific concept in which they were pushed into the concept of concentration camps. I'm trying to bring two things together. What I'm trying to argue here is that the Israelis have a certain type of, the Jewish people have a certain type of feeling wherein they believe that they have been historically disadvantaged and they have been always targeted. And therefore, what they do to the Palestinians in a way is justified because of their own experience. And they are finding their own homeland in what we call as Jerusalem, and therefore Israel and Palestine become contested zones. This history is something which you've done last week itself. This is something which you've already done last week, which is the history of Israel-Palestine. Now, very simply, I'm trying to move away from it and rather talk about how is that Israel can do what it is doing to Palestine. Are you getting my point? Israel is Judaism, Palestine is Muslims. This is a very simple, straightforward point. So I'm now trying to change the whole context. Yes. So I'm trying to create the context in a different way. There is no point discussing the old standard Abrahamic concept. That is not what is important here. What is more important here is how is that Israel can do what it is doing right now. Can we discuss that aspect? Because I want everybody to be on the same place. Okay. Now, when we talk about Israel, if you today Google Jewish population in the world, after Israel, the biggest population we will see actually in the US. If you've ever gone through any of the producers lists or the people who are linked to Hollywood, their cinematic industry, you will find that most of the producers are Jews. So the biggest population of Jews is actually in Israel. However, US also has a very big population. Now, since its inception, Israel had a very strategic advantage, which is that the US was ready to give most of its advanced weaponry and was ready to invest in the different, what we call as defense systems of Israel. One of the best example of this would be, and you would have heard about it, called the Iron Dome. In multiple places, you would have heard this concept, Iron Dome, Iron Dome, Iron Dome. Iron Dome is actually their short range, what we call as short range missile defense system. And the Iron Dome has been developed by a company called the Rafale Industries. Rafale Industries is not Dassault Rafale, but Rafale Industries is an American company. Close to last 50 to 60 years, very closely they've developed this concept. And the concept is very straightforward, that they have a radar system which identifies different rockets. Then the control unit calculates that how can we intercept it. And then there are what are called the Tamir rockets. They are fired from a canister launch system, and it in a way destroys any incoming rockets. This is a very interesting system. and it's considered very invincible, very formidable in that regard. But Iron Dome has been a very, very important investment which the Americans have made into close to $4 billion into Israel. Now, Israelis, throughout the initial period between 1950s to 60s, had cultivated a certain image. Now, please pay attention. They had cultivated a certain image that within this contested space of West Asia, they are invincible because they have the what we call as support of the Americans, and the Americans are, as it is, giving access to a lot of important resources. The Israelis in a way started to develop a certain type of overconfidence. And if you look at the map of Israel, there are two things which come through. See, they have a very long border with Egypt. This border is right now stable, but I'll tell you the context of the Yom Kippur War. The longest border they share is with Jordan. This is a very stable border. However, they have one sector which intersects with Syria and the other one which intersects with Lebanon. Now, when these Israelis started to develop a certain type of image about themselves, in the year 1967, they will do something very dangerous in this sector, which is called the 6 Days War. And in the 6 Days War, what the Israelis will do is that they will enter into today what we call as the Golan Heights, and also enter into the Egyptian sector and claim what are called the historical lands of the Jews. And therefore, in the 6 Days War, Israelis, using their military might and power, dominated the Syrians and the Egyptians. However, the invincibility of the Israelis was broken in 1973. And this was a rude shock which the Israelis got in what is called the Yom Kippur War. Or it's also called the Ramadan War or Ramzan Wars. The concept is very straightforward. Yom Kippur is a Jewish holiday. It's a very important day for the Jews. On the other hand, it is also the 10th day of Ramzan. And on Yom Kippur, or on the 10th day of Ramzan, on 7th October 1973, Egypt and Syria, in what is called the Arabic League or Arabic Union, these two attacked Israel. And Israel was taken by surprise when it came to the Yom Kippur War. They had no idea what was actually happening. It was their intelligence failure. It was also a failure of their defense mechanism when it comes to its borders. And herein what happened was that Syria and Egypt pushed back the Israelis. However, if you look at the year 73, this is also the period of what we call as the Cold War. It also is the concept of Cold War. You are asking me, where is Palestine? See, West Bank plus Gaza is what we call as today Palestine. That's it. This is the area which is Palestinian sector. Now, 1973 is in the détente, which is the de-escalation period of the Cold War politics between USA and USSR. However, the Americans and the USSR, though they were trying to de-escalate, they will very actively get involved in this war. And Israel, as always, got the support of the Americans, while Egypt and Syria got the support of the USSR at this point of time. And because two nuclear powers were involved, what happens is that the de-escalation happens very quickly. And by 22nd, 24th October, the ceasefire is signed. The ceasefire is signed. But people are talking about Yom Kippur today. They're talking about Yom Kippur today. I'm extremely sorry about this. They're talking about Yom Kippur today. But why? Yom Kippur, everybody came to its original borders. However, Golan Heights became a disputed area between Syria and Israel. Now, the point is, why is that people are talking about in 2023 about Yom Kippur? This is the question. And the answer to this question is because when we talk about what has happened recently, the 6th October attack in 1973 in a way destroyed a certain overconfidence of the Israelis. And in a way, this Hamas attack is also similar. Other than this, there is no similarity. The fact is that when Hamas has attacked, it has in a way destroyed the invincibility concept of Israel. So the first question I was going to deal with you was that why are people talking about Yom Kippur? People are talking about Yom Kippur because Yom Kippur War was a moment in which Israel had a certain type of ego which was shattered. And Hamas's attack this time on 7th October is also in a way shattering the notions of Israelis that how does their defense mechanism works. More than that, Hamas, which is a terrorist organization which talks about getting the Palestinian land back, talks about getting their homeland back, their attack has been so elaborate that very simply, it is a proper intelligence failure on the part of the Israelis. Now, this is the first thing. I hope you understand why are people talking about Yom Kippur and Hamas. If this is clear, then I want to move to the second aspect. Yom Kippur, just because of the fact that it shattered the ego, Hamas has also shattered the ego. This is the only similarity because there's a difference now which we need to understand. Okay. Now, while Yom Kippur was two nations fighting, or rather three nations fighting, which is Israel and Egypt and Syria, this one is a little bit different. Hamas is not a state, is not a country, it is a terrorist organization. And when it has now attacked Israel, the first most interesting thing to understand here is how did the Iron Dome fail? How did the Iron Dome fail? It's a very interesting question. Because they, from time to time, the Hamas used to fire 2-3 rockets, 5-6 rockets on a daily basis, at least on a monthly basis for sure. But the question is, how did Iron Dome fail? And here, Hamas has found a very interesting solution, or in a way, a very interesting loophole in the Iron Dome. See, Iron Dome can intercept only a limited capacity of rockets. What the Hamas did was fired 2,200 rockets at one go. Within the span of 20-25 minutes, 2,200 rockets, and the 10 Iron Dome systems did not know what or which rocket to actually intercept. And therefore, the Iron Dome's biggest failure is that you can actually overwhelm it. You can push in too much of rockets, or the quantity of rockets, if they are more than the available Tamir rockets, because it takes time to load them back. The Hamas found a solution. This is the first thing. And this tells you that this system is not foolproof. First point. Now the second point is why? See, we all know that Hamas is not doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. Hamas is doing it for the Israelis. Hamas is doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. Hamas is not doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. Hamas is not doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. Hamas is not doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. Hamas is not doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. Hamas is not doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. Hamas is not doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. Hamas is not doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. Hamas is not doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. Hamas is not doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. Hamas is not doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. Hamas is not doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. Hamas is not doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. Hamas is not doing it for the Palestinians. We all know it very, very well. all terrorist organizations claim to do something for their people, but most of the Palestinians actually don't even prescribe to the Hamas understanding. So we understand one thing for sure, that the Hamas or Hamas generally is not a Palestinian affiliated peoples based organization. And that is why you would have realized that nowadays people are talking it as the Israel Hamas conflict and not as Israel Palestine conflict, because this is not a Palestinian government or even Palestinian people sanctioned attack in that regard. So Hamas is acting like the Taliban, like the Jaish-e-Mohammed, like the ISI, independent of its people. And the question would be then, see, Egypt and Syria are very big countries. At that point of time, extremely what we call as aggressive also. However, Hamas is a terrorist organization. But then the question is, why would the Hamas in a way wake up the Israelis? And the answer to this question comes from the order or the security order which actually was developing or has been pushed by the Israelis on the Palestinians. Hamas is the terrorist organization which has attacked Israel. Right? Now, question is why? And the first answer to this question comes from the fact that, see, Israel had created a certain what we call as security order, in which West Bank and Gaza were the two areas in which the Palestinians had been pushed into. Along these sectors, there were checkposts. There were different what we call as military establishments. There was checking. There was a certain order which the Israelis had created. Now, the problem in this story is that what the Hamas saw was that the Israel-Palestine issue was getting overshadowed in the artificial peace which has started to emerge in the West Asian sector. See, we know that Saudis don't go very well with the Iranians, Shia Sunni. We also understand that the Turkish regime does not go well with the Iranians again. We know that Iraq, Iran don't go well together. We also know that Oman, Yemen, already there's a conflict. We also understand that UAE, Saudi, and the Saudi-Qatarian relationship is also not quite well. So we know that all of the countries in this sector somehow have certain issues within themselves. However, in the past 10 years, what has happened is Saudis and Iranians very recently have accepted to, in a way, have peace, artificial peace. It is diplomatic peace. Then the Qatar-Saudi issue also got resolved. Then the Turkish, UAE, and Saudi, what we call as alliance, is also now talking about certain type of peace in this sector. So somehow the West Asian sector, after its destabilization by, understand this point, by the Americans itself. The Americans are responsible for the destabilization of West Asia, from Iraq to Iran to Syria to ISIS to Taliban to all of these terrorist organizations. They were created by America itself to destabilize this sector, because the what we call as USSR or the Russian influence in this sector was high, and therefore the Taliban was created by the Americans to destabilize Afghanistan. The ISIS was created by the Americans to destabilize the Assad government, which was supported by Russia. The Iraq, the Libyan, the Saudi Arabian, the Qatarian, all conflicts in this sector are America created only. This is something again we discussed when we talk about world history, that Americans are the ones who actually destabilize this sector. However, in the last 10 years, somehow all of these countries are coming together to talk about peace. And if you are a terrorist organization, now please pay attention to this. If you are a terrorist organization who talks about Palestine, 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 is funded by the Palestinian, is funded by this agenda of Palestine, and you start to see peace emerge in this sector, with people becoming more and more comfortable with the way Israel is dealing with Palestine, they are more and more accepting the security order. Would you feel very, very comfortable in that regard if you are a terrorist organization based on an agenda? That is the point. No, I would never feel comfortable, or Hamas could see something, which is that the agenda is getting over. It is like imagine that for the Pakistanis, and for us it is not an issue. For the Pakistanis, there was no Kashmir issue. Then what would these Pakistani politicians do? What would they do? They would sit around, because then they would have to think about their own country. Ki bhai, we've taken too much money from the Chinese, but now, right now, no, Chinese, Kashmir. This is called distraction. This is called distraction. Hamas can right now do whatever it wants on the basis of the concept that Palestine, Palestine, Palestine. Now, if everybody is accepting the fate of Palestine itself, the security order, everybody is comfortable with it, then on what agenda do you fight? It is here that we get the answer to the question why. See, Hamas will never stand the test of time. It is basically imagine that India goes after full and final Air Force, Navy with army against the Taliban in, for example, Pakistan. Do you really think that if India goes all out against the Talibanis, enters into Pakistan and takes their sector, would they even survive for one day? Imagine. Would they survive for one day? No. Same way, Hamas cannot survive the power of Israel when they will actually rain down terror on them. And they are doing it. Israel is doing it. Israel has now gone all out. Israel has now gone all out to go kill or destroy the Hamas. But the point was, this is what Hamas wanted, which is to tell the world, yes, there is something called Israel-Palestine. We want to bring the Israel-Palestine issue to the forefront. This is what is the agenda of the Hamas. That the agenda is not that they want to resolve Israel-Palestine. It's about telling the world, hum bhi hai, we are also here. We want Palestine. Maybe the Palestinians actually don't even want Hamas to represent them, but no, we are also here. This is basically that one person who does not like everyone else's happiness and wants to ruin the party. And that is what the Hamas has actually done. But now the Hamas has done something for which the Palestinians will pay for. And this is the problem. This is the problem wherein a terrorist organization is now going to make close to 60 lakh to 1 crore Palestinians pay for their actions. So the first aspect I discussed with you was Yom Kippur, why this concept, and second was why Hamas has done it. If these two aspects are clear, I would like to move to the third aspect where I want to discuss with you what is the rule of war when it comes to this war itself. Even celebrities are supporting Hamas, that will stand and happen. In DC, understand this point, Kumkum. See, I'm for example in Bangalore, you may be in Delhi, you may be in any city of India. By sitting in Delhi, I support Israel, I support Palestine. It's easy. By hamara kya jata? According to you and me, I can just say I support Palestine, I support Israel. But when it comes to supporting our issues, have you seen their celebrities talking about our issues? No, it is fashionable. It is today fashionable to say that I stand with Palestine, I stand with Israel. Then why didn't you actually find a solution for it? This is a very important point you need to understand. Nobody is taking no points. Nobody is taking any sides. Everybody is getting their own agenda out of it. That is the only point. Yes, becoming relevant. Okay. What is the difference between Palestine and Hamas? Saddam, what is the difference between Taliban and the Pakistani people? Hamas means, don't ask me who is Sita now. Hamas is the name of the terrorist organization. If you understand the difference between a terrorist organization and the people of that country, same way you will understand the difference between Hamas and Palestinians. Okay, the basic point is Hamas fights for something in the name of the Palestinians. Now, we are on the same page. Can I move to the third aspect? Then I'll consolidate everything. Can Israel and Palestine come together and fight Hamas? Sure, why not? As it is, Palestine has no real military power. Palestine is just people together. That's it. Okay. Taliban are terrorist group. Yes. Yes. There should be no doubt about that. Why Iran is finding... I Vivek tell you that because of they want to destabilize this whole sector further. Now Iran is finding its way. Okay. Now let's talk about the third aspect. Yes. Okay. Actually, Palestinian war or not? See, Hamas represents so-called Palestinians, or according to them, their agenda is to take Palestine. But Hamas is only representing its own agenda. That is it. Okay. How can you say that Hamas is terrorist? So what should I call them then? Zavir, what do you want me to call them? 2,000 people killed in Israel. Do Palestinian people actually subscribe to what Hamas is doing? Zabir, you tell me, what should I call them? It's very easy to write like that. Give me an answer for the question. How can you say? See, this is the problem. This is the problem. It's a good question. It's a good question. After reading 5, 6, 7 books and doing a little bit of UPSC preparation, everybody can write like that. Because now they will give me random words. I can already see that. I don't want to even use those words for these people. A terrorist organization is a terrorist organization. Now, when a Palestinian is dying today, he is dying because of a terrorist organization. Hamas is truly a terrorist organization because the Palestinian government, the Palestinian people, and the Palestinians generally don't support Hamas. So don't talk about things which you don't understand truly. So very simply straightforward, Hamas is a terrorist organization. There should be no doubt about it. And if you will start to say these things in the interview, then it will become a dangerous interview for yourself. Then there will be totally something else which will come out in the interview. Hamas is not a terrorist organization. Understand this point. For me, the religion of Hamas doesn't matter. For me, the agenda of Hamas doesn't matter. For me, what the Hamas represents also does not matter. If you kill civilians, you're a terrorist organization. Straightforward point. Palestinians did not tell the Hamas to go and do anything. Understand this point very, very clearly. You can pick up Al Jazeera type of information. You can pick up this Qatari and this West Asia type of information and then give me this type of attitude. That doesn't work. So call a terrorist organization what it is. So don't try to use very big terms for them which they don't deserve. So if we all are on the same page with regards to who are the Hamas, which is not my issue, I really don't care. But the point is, can I move to the third aspect because I want to move beyond this topic? Non-state actor, whatever you want to call it. You are trying to be diplomatic here where you need to be diplomatic, you're not. But here you are not ready to call a terrorist organization a terrorist organization. Then you call Jaish-e-Mohammed also as non-state actor. No issues. Now, when we talk about the third aspect, it is that how does it come through the rules of war? See, if you will go through the UN Charter, now please pay attention, people who really want to know what this is rather than distracting the issue itself. See, the UN Charter says two things. Today, I am a country, for example, India, and terrorist action happens to me. Let's take the US, it's a better example. Now, US, there's 9/11 which happened. Now, the first article under the laws of war says, under what condition and to what extent is a state justified to use force. So for example, America got 9/11. Now the UN Charter will say, does the 9/11 warrant that the US can go to war or can use force? This is where you ask, does the action of the non-state actor or the terrorist organization warrant force in that regard? In the Israel-Palestine issue, this concept gets in a way satisfied, that the Hamas killed 2,000 people in Israel, has taken a lot of civilians till today hostage. They're holding certain areas in Israel today, and Hamas's action in a way justifies the use of force by Israel. Now comes the second condition. The second condition is, how do you conduct this war? How do you conduct this war? Which is that, what are the basic military establishments, what we call as response, which is justified under the UN Charter? Meaning, you can't then just go and give sarin gas or start to use chemical weapons or drop a nuclear bomb. This charter, how do you conduct that war, is also called the International Humanitarian Law, the IHL. Now, under IHL, there are two very important concepts. Distinction between civilian and terrorist, or what we call as combatant, and second, proportionality. Wherein proportionality means, see, for example, they kill 5 people. For example, you go and kill 5 terrorists. That is proportional. Jayanti, write your question again. I have not seen your question. That is proportional. That is called proportionality. Today they kill 10 people and you drop a nuclear bomb on that state. That is called disproportionate action. Now, as a third party actor, see, I have no stake in Israel-Palestine. I have no stake in Hamas. I really have no stake in this conflict itself. Israel wins, Hamas wins, Palestine comes through. My stake is 0. My thing is to make you clear the UPSC examination. After you become an IAS officer, whatever happens really doesn't matter. The point is, very simply, as a third party observer in that regard, where I have no stake, can I justify the actions of Israel? Can I justify the actions of Israel? And if you go by the second principle, how do you conduct the war? Now Israel is acting as a very dangerous power and not as a responsible power. See, cutting off the food, water, and electricity of every Palestinian is a disproportionate action. Asking 1.1 million people to move from northern Gaza Strip to the southern Gaza Strip is disproportionate action. Basically, destroying whole of North Gaza is disproportionate action. And in a way, they are, see, Hamas, I don't expect nuance from Hamas. Hamas will kill civilians. It's a terrorist organization. But what the Israelis are doing is, they are doing the same. which is killing Palestinians in the name of protecting Israel, which is also problematic. And how can, as an Indian, I talk about this concept so comfortably? Because we have gone through it. See, we as a sovereign state have seen multiple terrorist actions. But have you seen India dropping a nuclear bomb on Lahore? Try to understand this point. Have we ever tried to be disproportionate? No. We have always made a difference between a terrorist and a civilian. And therefore, India has all the right to say to Israel right now, we understand your pain. We understand the pain of terrorist action. Then don't act like a terrorist organization yourself. And therefore, if we go by the rules of law or the rules of war or the laws of war, what Israel is doing right now is also not acceptable. And this topic is not over until this conflict is over. But there were three things I wanted to discuss with you. If we all understand these 3 points, I want to summarize it and then move on to the second topic. Can I do that? I'll now talk about all 3 aspects, bring them together, and then we'll move to the second topic. Yes, so this was the basic part. This was the basic part. Now I'm summarizing. Everything else you can see. Yom Kippur 1973 was based on the action of the 6 Days War in 1967. The only way it has been, Hamas has acted the way it has acted because of the security order. And see, it says here, Israel UAE reconciliation, Saudi Iranian reconciliation, Qatari Saudi reconciliation, the Saudi UAE and Israeli Saudi talks. All of this was creating a certain type of geopolitical environment which was positive. Now, Hamas just wanted to attack in order to create a bang which could basically bring Palestine to the forefront again. The rule of law, or the what we call as laws of war, say that under what conditions a country can use force, and second, how is that war fought is more important. And the second principle is called international humanitarian law, and we have now tried to apply it on Israel Hamas. Now let me bring everything together, and this is where we consolidate everything in one go. So we are discussing Israel Hamas issue first. First is, why are people talking about Yom Kippur? Please pay attention for the people who joined late and do not understand it. First things first, the Yom Kippur War destroyed the ego of the Israelis, which they had developed after 1967. Hamas has done the same by challenging the Israelis and undercutting their Iron Dome. That is the similarity, first aspect. Second aspect I discussed with you is that the Israelis always act like a victim because of their historical experience when it comes to anti-Semitism, and generally how they have experienced their history, which is anti-Semitism is inbuilt into Christianity. The second aspect which we discussed properly was, why has Hamas done this? Hamas has done this because Hamas was becoming irrelevant in the Palestinian sector, because, and in West Asia generally, because West Asia we were seeing a proper positive environment, artificial though, created by the different countries, and the Israel-Palestine people were ready to accept the status quo as it was. The third aspect is, what Hamas did, does it warrant Israel's action? The answer is yes. But is Israel's response actually within the international humanitarian law? The answer is no. Israel is doing what the Hamas did, which is killing Palestinians for an action of a terrorist actor, which basically does not represent the Palestinians. In all of this, you will realize one thing. Who really suffers? Who really suffers? Try to understand this. Who is suffering in all of this? Yes. Civilians, people. All of this politics, only people die, people suffer, civilians die, not these actors. And this is the basic takeaway you have to take from here. This topic will again be done next week with another set of new issues. But today, I hope you understand the basic concept which I wanted to discuss with you. The UN laws of war and the other two aspects. If we are clear about this, I would like to do the prelims question with you. Before that, I'll make you just look at this map once because one of the statements is based on it. Look at this map a little bit closely. Just, I'm not telling you what the question is. Just look at this map. Keep it in your mind. These are the two sectors which are the Palestinian sectors. Gaza, as of right now, Gaza north to south migration is happening because Israelis have said that we will destroy this whole sector itself, where the Hamas used to mostly operate from. West Bank is a more controlled area where the Palestinians are controlled through various checkposts of the Israelis. This was the more unlikely place to actually get an attack from, but Gaza was more important in that sense. So if you understand this map, can I take up the prelims question? Sir, Jews are doing eye for an eye. What is wrong? Good luck with your ethics paper, Vivek. You will get 100 out of 100 in it. Okay. There's a saying, eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So, sure. Write ethics paper. The examiner will enjoy your answers. Okay. Now, the question. Consider the following statements. West Bank lies to the east of Tel Aviv. Golan Heights is a disputed area between Israel and Lebanon. And the Yom Kippur War was fought between Egypt and Saudi Arabia. I'm pushing the poll to you. 1 second, giving you a minute to answer this question. Please take your time and answer it. Tel Aviv is a place. That is why I asked you to look at the map. Akash, I know Hezbollah, Lebanon and Syrian support is also coming through. We need to see. See, these are initial reports. Yes, Tel Aviv is also the capital of Israel. Yes. These are initial reports. I can't tell you that right now because I'm not a speculator. I'm not a news channel who will tell you about it. Only once it is established, I will talk about it. Israel intention is attack Hamas or Palestine. Now, basically, Bleslins, Israel can do anything. Israel is also using this as a way of just killing the issue. If you have any understanding of world history, think of it like the Sarajevo crisis, where the Serbians were the issue and the Austrians just wanted to take the Serbian sector because it was becoming too problematic. 46% of you totally correct, 30% of you B, 1 and 2 only. You have not seen where Golan Heights is, and 18% of you, 2 only. Okay. See, this much geography you need to know about this sector now. This is Tel Aviv. This is West Bank. As it is, Tel Aviv is based on the Mediterranean Sea, so nothing could be on the west of it. It has to be on the east of it. First statement is totally correct. Golan Heights is in a issue between Syria and Israel. And Yom Kippur War, as you know, is not between the two actors, which are Egypt and Saudi Arabia. It is Egypt, Syria plus Israel. So these two statements are incorrect. Answer is 1 only. Now, please understand this point. Understand this point. This much map of Israel, because you are now becoming experts of this sector, you should know. I could have given you a more difficult question with Jerusalem as the reference point or Gaza Strip as a reference point. But next time when you go through the map, look at these major cities, right? Can I now move to the second topic? India's hunger index ranking. Are we clear about all of this? Okay. I'm trying to cram a lot of things, at least 3 weeks of different editorials together. I'm trying to give you an understanding. That is the basic point. This issue is not over. So you will always see it recurring in different forms in mains exam, in mains current affairs also, and this also. Now, India's Hunger Index ranking. Now we have come 111 Nelson, 111th. But the more interesting thing is, but let me give you the basic details here. It is published by two organizations, Concerned Worldwide and Wealth Hunger Life. And it scores you from 0 to 100. The more you're closer to 0, the less hunger you have. What is more interesting is, out of 125 countries, we are 111. But Pakistan is 102. Bangladesh is 81st. Nepal is 69th. Sri Lanka is 60th. ये नहीं समझ आया मेरे को. This makes no sense. This makes no sense. See, Nepal still I can digest. Sri Lanka still I can digest. Pakistan 102. Now there are two things. See, in India, yes, there is issues. Let's be very honest. There are three things which they've pointed out. We come under serious category. 28.7 is our score. But if you look at it vis-a-vis 2000 and 2008, we were 38 and 35. We reduced it by 10. We reduced it by 10. We are slightly better than last year, 29. The lower the score, the better you are. Now see, I understand that India has issues. This is, for example, we have what is called stunting. Stunting is that at a certain age, you should be a certain height. You are not that. It is called stunting. There's something called wasting. Wasting is that for your certain height, you don't have the weight. We also have malnutrition. Sure. As it is, we today don't eat very healthy. Though money doesn't really matter. It's about how we eat. There is anemia in India. There is infant mortality. There is a lot of issues. But 111 makes no sense vis-a-vis other South Asian states. So what is the takeaway from here is, obviously you have to remember the two organizations which give or publish it, Concerned Worldwide and the concept of Wealth Hunger Life. And we also need to know that India has improved, but still this makes no sense. This makes no sense at all. Zero. No sense at all. And the data which they give is also distorted somehow. Because I will show you what the Government of India response has been. See, child stunting in India, 35.5%. Undernourishment or undernutrition, 16.6%. Wasting, 18.7%. Under 5 mortality, 3.1%. But if you go by Government of India numbers, they're totally different. While we argue that wasting is 7.2%, they say it is 18.7%. Now, let's come to the more fishy part of it. There are three things which you have to remember here. I hope you understand the organization or you understand the ranking. These two things you understand? Do you understand these two things? Yes, you do. Now, the third would be, how do we understand it? See, some of you will say that India is distorting its numbers. Some of you will say that they are distorting their numbers. Doesn't really matter who's distorting the numbers. See, the point is very straightforward. We can't deny that these three things don't exist. But there are three issues in this hunger index. First is the sample size. This is what you need to know. Sample size means how many examples have you taken? Now, for example, you are 100 million people and you take 10 million as your sample size makes sense. It's still okay. But for a country like India, 1.4 billion, does 10 million actually make sense? If my sample is 10 million, does it actually make sense? If for a country like India, billion, we are 1 billion, like round figure, 1.5 billion. Does it actually make sense? No. And this is the problem in this index. It is taking a very small sample size. Basically, it's going to certain states in which maybe the indicator is low, and then it is generalizing it for India itself. Second is, as we know, we have our own data, which is 10% off. See, when you distort numbers, you distort it by 5%, 6%, 2%, 3%, 10%. Again, makes no sense. And what the government of India is pointing out is that most of the indicators are only child-centric. But does the child health remain independent of the health of the mother? Tell me. Does the health of the child remain independent of the health of the mother? Again, no. So if you look at the methodology, it is problematic. If you look at the data size, it is again problematic. If you look at the focus, it is also on the child, not on the mother. And therefore, what India is arguing is, for a country like India, don't use generalized concepts. See, I'll give you a very simple example of this and you will realize it, how these indexes actually are problematic. There's something called World Happiness Report, yes or no? Or what is called World Happiness Index. Yes? Now, for example, one of the most interesting, if you look at the indicators under World Happiness Index, one is called generosity. Generosity. Now, in Indian context, what does generosity mean? What does generosity mean? Here, we are trying to make our life work and in a way building rupee by rupee and buying cars and houses. Per capita income is already very low. We are being bound by certain climate change based, what we call as protocols. And then you say Indians are not generous. Now, this indicator makes sense for Finland, for Sweden, where there is already income equality. Then if they are generous, it makes sense. So for an indicator which is just child-centric, without taking the mother in the picture, and India is saying stunting, wasting is just not about hunger. It's about socio-economic condition. It is about access to water. It is about access to food. It is about socio-economic conditions. It's a multi-dimensional aspect. Why are you bringing everything into standard things? Opportunity. What is the opportunity? What is the concept of opportunity? There is no opportunity in India. Social service, corruption perception index. Ask every Indian, they will say everything is corrupt. But that is technically not true. These indexes are based on generalized aspects which may make sense in a Western context, but doesn't make sense in an Indian context. And this is why I'm trying to tell you, because I could have easily told you the ranking and move forward. But I'm trying to tell you that don't read too much into them. I'm not trying to say that the government of India should be given a certificate saying that they've done the best in this area. But the way it is very simply pushing us against these countries, and it's not about ego. You look at the economy, you look at the people, you look at the conditions. A debt-ridden country where there is so much inflation that they can't eat anything, there is no hunger. 102nd. Nepal, as it is struggling. Sri Lanka already has a major issues itself. Bangladesh, the same issue. And this is called generalized, westernized indexes. Get my point? Why do we participate in this? We don't participate. They automatically launch it. Okay. Let's do one thing. Let's do the prelims question and we can move on. You understand it. Okay. Consider the following statements. The Global Hunger Index is released by Concerned Worldwide and Wealth Hunger Life. Compared to 2000, India has made significant progress in this index. Gunjan, that is also a good point. Height, no, but it's not about that everybody has a different height. Obviously, I'm 6'3", you could be 6, you could be 5. But at a certain age, you should be a certain height. That is there. That's a scientific concept. The parameters are not whitewashed, but westernized. How can it is important for UPSC because it's not real? Bharat, UPSC can ask you this. This is the type of question which will come. Why West is not accepting India's growth? Kirti, there's a saying in Three Idiots, you know, that when your friend fails, you feel bad. But when he tops, you feel equally more bad. Same way, when India is rising, obviously the West will not like it. Obviously. Okay, 61% totally correct. Okay, 28% of you can't believe what is written in the second statement. But this is why I gave you the second statement. See, it doesn't say compared to 2022. It says to compare to 2000. If the indicator in 2000 was 38.4, that haven't we made significant progress? This is why certain types of perceptions dominate. This question tells you how your subconscious is working. Your subconscious is saying, ho hi nahi sakta, can't be. If we are 111, can't be that we've improved. We have improved. We've come a very long way from 38.5 to 28. But the perception that India is not doing well is now hindering it. So the answer here is both 1 and 2. Done? Make sense? Can we move on? This is a realistic question. These type of questions come in the examination. Okay. Done. Now, Operation Ajay, small topic again related to Israel-Hamas issue, which is in the examination, they will ask you what is Operation Ajay or how is it related to or what is it related to. So, Operation Ajay, we already know, is that there are close to 18,000 Indians who are stuck in Israel and they were caught off guard, obviously. And these 18,000 Indians have different professions, mostly caregivers, because Indians do go in very big numbers to the very aging population of Israel. And India is now voluntarily, whoever wants to come out, India is voluntarily on first come, first service basis, allowing these Indians to come back. In 2000, it was 38. In 2013, it is 28. How is it improvement? Partha, listen to me. Stop getting distracted. The closer you are to 0, the better it is. 100 doesn't mean that you have no hunger. It means you have 100% hunger. So if you are 28 is closer to 0 or 38 is closer to 0, you tell me. Parth, lower the score, better it is. Some pay attention. These things are what really matters. 28, very good. So 28 will be, so we have actually done it now. Very good. Now, Operation Ajay. Operation Ajay, 18,000 Indians. Whoever wants to come back, please do come back. And that is the only thing you need to know, which is that Operation Ajay is related to Israel. So, Israel-Hamas issue, Indians are stuck, close to 18,000 of them. Since 12th October, we have started to bring them back by chartered flights, free of cost. Close to 1,000 students are there. IT professionals are also there. And that's it. This is what you really need to know. Ajay, Israel. Just remember this. Ajay, Israel. Can I give you a very simple question, which I want everybody to have 100 out of 100. This question, everybody should answer. If somebody is still answering wrong, then there is a problem or you are not listening to me in that regard. Come on, I'll give you 30 seconds. This is a very slam dunk question. Very straightforward question. Yes, first after they get registered in the Indian embassy, then they say that we want to go, and then they will go to the Indian embassy, then they will take the flight and come back to India. Yes. Does hunger depend on vegetarian, non-vegetarian? No. Nutrition doesn't matter like that. Nutrition doesn't work with vegetarian, non-vegetarian. Okay, this 2%, 2%, 1%. Where are you? 95% have made me proud. Come on, listen to me. Ajay is conducted between Syria, Sudan, Lebanon. I added 3 areas which are disputed Israel. 5 minutes. Don't have this Gajini effect na, that you heard it from me in 5 minutes before. And then after 6 minutes, what Ajay, which Ajay, acha, Lebanon. Come on. Syria, Sudan, Lebanon. I've randomly added. You should not, don't even need to look at them. Ajay, Israel. Have written here also. Please, this Gajini, you have to remember for the examination, which is after 5 to 6 months. You are forgetting 3 minutes of discussion. 3 minutes of discussion. Yes, because still hunger. You're hungry. This is why India is hunger. Hungry. Bhook lagi hai. Yaad nahi ho raha. I understand that. Okay. Hunger index, we are very low. So we are hungry. So that is why we are not remembering. Okay. Can I move to the next topic, please? Okay. I didn't have dinner. That is why I was not able to remember. I have dinner as I speak. Okay. Now, the question is not displaying. So you went with randomly any option. Okay. Everybody has their justification. Okay. High Commission, embassy, same. Yeah, in a way. High Commission is a proper, embassy is a smaller word than High Commission. Okay. You could be called a High Commissioner or an ambassador. That's the difference. In internet communication was pure. Very. Definition of hunger is a problem. True. But we know stunting, wasting, and malnutrition together is called issue of hunger. Okay. Now, let's talk about the Asiatic wild dog. Again, very straightforward area, but a very interesting thing which I wanted to discuss with you, which some of you may have not paid attention to this year, or generally you would have not known. The role of Iran in Gaza crisis, nobody knows, Vivek, right now. You can be an investigative journalist like BBC, find it. As of right now, there has been no real proof which has been found. Everything else is just speculation. Okay. Now, Asiatic wild dog. Now, this is a very interesting animal in the sense that we have dogs which have been domesticated. However, this is the only endangered wild pack animal. Canid means dog-like or dog family. And in the tropical forests of India, there is this is the only dog species which is endangered under IUCN. And it has different names everywhere in different areas. For example, in India, we call it the dhole, or thereafter we have the Asiatic wild dog, the Indian wild dog, whistling dog, red wolf, mountain wolf. Different words are used. But the point is, there has been a very interesting study which has happened. Now, 3 things you have to remember for the examination. I am telling you it to you right now itself. First is the IUCN status, endangered. Second is that it is the only dog species, canid species, which is endangered in the Indian tropical forests. And third is that there is a need to stop or arrest their what we call as extinction process because they're on the path to it. And that is all because of standard habitat loss, this loss, that loss. If you will see that it is prey availability is the issue, people are killing them because of human and animal interaction, disease, and what we call as interspecies competition. And here is where something which I want to discuss this concept with you. Now, see, if I give you a very standard situation, I'll give you two examples. I have one national park. Now, please pay attention. I have one national park in which I have one area which is designated for the wild dog. They have their own prey, they have their own food. And there's one in which I have the tiger, own prey, own food. This is your example A, national park, designated spaces, no interaction between the wild dogs and the tiger. Thereafter, I have B, in which I have the wild dog plus tiger plus leopard, all in the same space. In which situation, prey means food they eat. In which situation do you think the wild dog will survive better? The unanimous answer, I'll push a poll to you also. Let's be more scientific in this. Two options. Tell me, I'm pushing a poll to you. What should be the answer to this question? Where does a wild dog survive better? When the prey and food is different to a tiger, or in a specific area, or when it is living with other animals also? So 62% of you believed what the scientists also believed, which is that non-positive, or what we call, the word which they use is, when you have a positive association, between animals, somehow they work better. Now try to understand this. The premise with which the scientists went into this study was that wild dogs are actually dying more because they have an intersecting habitat with tigers. And therefore, if we disassociate these two animals, maybe they will perform better. However, this is how our mind works. However, when the research was done, it was found that when there is a positive association, or there is interspecies competition and prey availability plus association, there's a positive impact on Asiatic dogs. And the reason is very straightforward. It's very straightforward. You'd have heard about a concept. When you are under pressure and in competition, you perform better. Somehow this is applying to these animals also. Firstly, they are gradationally in a certain food chain. So the tiger and the wild dog and the leopard are not competing with each other, but actually complementing each other. When they have their own exclusive zones, the wild dogs are not hunting, they are not eating properly, and they are not seeing competition. So they're becoming complacent. And that in turn leads to them for death or certain types of diseases. When there is competition, they are performing better, and in a way, the intersectionality of these animals is helping them survive better. So we believe that maybe it was the lack of food which was leading to their death. It is not that. It is that the tiger is creating a certain environment or a certain ecosystem around him or her, which is allowing it for the Asiatic dogs to perform better. It's strange, but this shows you nature is nuanced. Now, this aspect nobody is asking you. I wanted to use this analogy for a UPSC aspirant, which is that, understand this point. Don't think that if you will lock yourself inside a room, you will perform better, or you will not listen to people, you will perform better. Sometimes competition is good, and this is basically what is coming through. That very simply, here, the competition is helping the Asiatic dog survive because it is finding its prey better, and because see, the tiger may eat a certain portion of the deer, that is helping the Asiatic wild dog to then feed over it. There's a symbiotic relationship which is developing. So very simply, for the examination, the endangered, what we call as the IUCN, needs to be known, endangered. And second, only tropical Indian forest dog species which is endangered. And third is somehow we found a positive correlation. Anybody has any issue in these three aspects? This is the strange thing, or you want to find an interesting thing, that somehow we are finding intersectionalities. No issues. Perfect. So let's take the question. Consider the following about Asiatic wild dog. It is the only endangered wild pack living canid, which is canine or dog species in the Indian or in the tropical Indian forest. It is assigned critically endangered under IUCN. Let's see if Gajini effect works here also. Sorry, 4 options. Very good observation, Kribia. Very good. Akash, good. Kumkum, that is also not good. Okay. I didn't expect this. 42, 16, 36. If you look at it, the first statement contradicts the second one contradicts the first one. It is the only endangered wild pack animal. It is the only endangered wild pack animal. Huh? If this is correct, then how can this be correct? If it is endangered, then how it is critically endangered? Either your answer would be these two. I'm more confused about these people. Either you answer A or you answer B. Answer here is A. See, sometimes the UPSC gives you this type of questions, that the concepts contradict each other. What is the difference between the two? One is critically endangered, the other one is endangered. In the IUCN list, this means different level of population, different level of what we call as extinction profile. Endangered moves to critically endangered, then to extinct. This is static portion. I thought you would know it. So that the issue that you don't know the difference between critical and endangered. So critically endangered, endangered. Even if you don't know the difference, you know English, right? That these two words are different to each other. This is called overthinking. The more concerned I am about these people. Canid, I've told 3 times, comes from the family of canine, which is dog. Pack living means that they live in groups. Can I move forward? Yes. These are very realistic questions. Don't take them very, very lightly. A realistic question which comes in the examination. IUCN red list, note the critically endangered, vulnerable, you should know. If an animal is critically endangered, it must be endangered. Wow, Pratik, maja. Go and fight with the UPSC now. I love the way you guys sometimes argue. नहीं, मैं गलत हो ही नहीं सकता. How can I be wrong? If it is critically endangered, it has to be endangered also. It is implied that I am right. So then let's do one thing. Let's do one thing. Let's keep one status, which is critically endangered. Automatically vulnerable, threatened, least concerned, endangered. Automatically all of them will come through. Sometimes accept that you are wrong. Then let's do one thing. Why have states in India? India is India. All states same. 2 + 2 5 वाला हाल कर रहे हो यार. Come on, don't do this to yourself, because it is this is called, see, this is a disease. It's called overthinking. In class I diagnose it, but you will not even need Dolo 650. You need a much bigger medicine for it. Literally, this is called overthinking. Literally overthinking. That critically endangered means endangered. That is why both statements are correct. Dosage has to be increased. I don't know where you got that concept from. Please stop doing this to yourself. Please don't do that. If there's a difference between critical endangered and endangered, there is a difference. I say Indian subcontinent, everything comes through. Don't do that. Okay. Wild pack means wild, living in groups. Okay. Now, again, straightforward, simple topic. I hope you get my point. Who was this very important personality? I don't remember his name. Can't find his name. But I hope you get my point. I'm trying to make this point just to make you understand. Stop doing it. Okay. This is not Gajini effect. This is totally different effect. So Raman effect. Okay. Total different effect. Somehow I do. This is literally called overthinking. Okay. Now, ferry between India and Sri Lanka. See, why is it significant? Because let me give you the context. Again, very straightforward thing. Need to know the starting point and the end point. The reason is, see, very simply, if you have gone through your internal security, you would know there's something called the LTT issue, Lankan Tamil Tigers. And there was a major issue in Sri Lanka between the Sinhalese speaking and the Tamil speaking, historically because of what we call as the Chola Empire, which is the Imperial Chola, captured the northern sector and thereafter for 50 years ruled the Sri Lankan sector. That is why Sri Lanka has two major languages, Tamil and Sinhalese, but Sinhalese is the most biggest linguistic group. And between from the 1960s onwards, there has been a major movement which now has died out, which is the LTTE. It's an insurgent, you can call it a terrorist group, whatever you want to call it. It was about getting a Tamil homeland for, or the Tamil speaking people, their rights in Sri Lanka. Now, the LTT issue literally led to a civil war situation in Sri Lanka. India very closely monitored it also. And before the LTT issue emerged, because of which Rajiv Gandhi was also assassinated, previously there was a Chennai to Colombo ferry which used to happen. It was called the Indo-Ceylonese Express. It was a ship which used to take you from Chennai to Colombo, the state capital to the capital. And in 1982, it was stopped because of the civil war. And the revivalism of a ferry between India and Sri Lanka is a way of revisiting it. Ferry means it's a small ship. It's a ship in which you can take cars. If you can have 50 kgs of luggage with you, you can take your cars. Basically, it's a good initiative. Ferries are mostly, it is going to be between Nagapattinam and Kankesathurai. These two, it's a passenger ship which can also have cargo in it. See, as it is not a very big thing. As it is not a very big thing, but it is symbolically very important. As one of you pointed out, Pratik, very good, soft power, which is shows a revivalism of the relationship between India and Sri Lanka. Because as you know, again trying to bring in a new concept, which is China has been trying to undercut the pro Sri Lankan policy to pro Indian policy of Sri Lanka, which is called the string of pearls concept, that they are picking up multiple ports in Sri Lanka in order to undercut the trade of India in this sector. And if Sri Lanka right now is ready to have a ferry between the Pak state, as it is called, it is significant. It will allow three things to happen. Goods and services will move better. Tourism can also be boosted. And over and above that, shows a certain symbolic bond. This shows a revivalism, a rejuvenation of a relationship which went sour. And we know that there has been a lot of issues in the Sri Lankan Indian relationship previously. For the past 50 years, we were seeing it. But now we are seeing a revivalism of it, which is encouraging for India generally. So what you need to know is the starting point, which is in Nagapattinam in Tamil Nadu, and it will end in near Jaffna. Jaffna used to be a very important zone of the LTTE itself, in what we call as Kanekeshathurai in Sri Lanka, and it will take you 3.5 hours, 110 kilometers, and it will be operated by the Tamil Maritime Board and Shipping Corporation of India. These are not things which you really need to know. You just need to know about one thing, which is starting point, end point. Simple, straightforward topic, not very, very difficult. Let's see if you can remember what I've said to you in the past 5 minutes, which is Nagapattinam, starting point, and the Kanekeshathurai is the end point. The same way it will become starting point and end point on the way back. 3.5 hours shows a revivalism. Simple, straightforward question from this area. The newly launched ferry between India and Sri Lanka originates at okay. 100% I want. Some of the options don't even make sense. Well, perfect, Rashi. By who is this 4%? 4 to 1. 93%, totally correct. Nagapattinam, Chennai was previously there. Thanjavur, I have not even used this word. Madurai is a landlocked city, is not even a port. So D, that 1% students, slow clap to you. So this can't be the option. This is not the option. Chennai is not the option. It is Nagapattinam. If you joined late, and is something. I have no explanation how you answered D, but sure. Okay. Simple, straightforward question. Again, would seem simple today, but in the exam situation, these actually become difficult because these small points you don't remember, generally giving you the significance of it, can be made in different aspects. Okay. Now, let's move to, this is the last big topic. Then we'll talk about the what we call as Indian Air Force ensign. 2-3 important concepts. Can I talk about this very interesting study? Very interesting lady. Very interesting study of how men and women have worked throughout different ages. Okay. Everybody's comfortable to this point? No issues? Come on. Have to tell me yes or no. Last, what, 20 minutes? Yes, sir. Very good. Okay. Now, see, there used to be an understanding, and a person got a Nobel Prize in 1992. Again, I'm trying to give you the larger picture here. In 1992, there was a study which argued that women never entered the economic sphere because of the responsibilities at home, while the market was always, which is the job market and the industries, were always open, the household was the problem for the women. Now, Claudia Goldin got the Nobel Prize in economics this year, and she's pointed out multiple very interesting things. First is called her U-shaped curve, which is called the U-shaped curve. Now, understand this point that this is a very, very West-centric American type understanding, will not apply on India, because India, as it is, industrial revolution in true sense did not happen. We went through the colonial experience. We have what we call as cyclical single male migration. The position of women is a little bit more problematic in our society itself. So it will not really apply on India. It will apply more on America and the real context today. Now, the U-shaped curve of Claudia Goldin argued that when it was agriculture, women were more part of the workforce, though not paid for it, but married women were part of the workforce as family labor. They were part of family labor, they were part of the workforce in that regard. However, as we went to industries, though women got access to economic opportunities, wages, they were already given lesser wage, but their participation went down because their responsibilities in nuclear families, which is only husband, wife, and children, went up. And the lowest point came when the Industrial Revolution, what was at its peak. And it is only after the First, Second World War, wherein the what we call it the service sector, tertiary sector emerged, that the role of women started to increase in the society and the economy more and more as service providers. However, what still remains is a gender pay gap. Basically, what Goldin argued, or what comes to our mind automatically, is that if I have a work which has to be done, a man will be paid more than a woman. This is basically called the gender pay gap. That a man will always be paid more for the same work what a woman can do. Now, the 1992 work argued, or multiple different studies argued, that it was because women lacked education qualification, or they were going into what are called female jobs, or the problem was that they did not have the right qualification, the right attitude, etc., etc. Multiple reasons were given. However, what Claudia Goldin argued was that if I take a job which is gender neutral, and I take a man and a woman who have equal qualification, equal educational background, equal socioeconomic condition, and equal indicators, and if I have a man who is less than a woman when it comes to basic indicators, when it comes to educational qualification, when it comes to aptitude, when it comes to any form of job which is equal, still a man is paid more. Basically, if I keep everything constant, still a man gets more. Now the question is, why? This is the question which got her the Nobel Prize. And the answer to this question she has given is called greedy work. It's called greedy work. See, she says that the problem is not that the women have responsibilities. The problem is in the market. See, what the market rewards, the job market and everything rewards, is long working hours, overtime, no life, only work, and rewards them also. So, for example, there's a deal which is going to happen, and for example, there is a woman and there's a man. The man is ready to work for 24 hours. He will stay overnight. He will not go to his home. He will do everything and everything to close the deal. But a woman has to go back because of her responsibilities at home, and she can't do the same as a man who's ready to work for long hours. And because the job market is greedy, it is this greedy work which in turn leads to these people getting rewards who are basically ready to work more, which is not ethical, which is not within the structure of that job itself. But a man can do it, but a woman can't. Because women have more responsibilities. Men can not come home, and that's okay. But women have to come home. Multiple responsibilities. So Claudia Golden argues that the problem is not in women or in the household. Problem is in the market itself. Now, what is the solution? Solution is first, men should also, in a way, work more in the household so that women are free. But more importantly, we need to change the nature of the work market or the job market, wherein we don't reward greedy work. Because there's a saying that if there's a job for 3 people and 2 people are ready to work for overtime, the third person will not be hired. But there's again a very interesting Harvard study which says that working more hours makes no sense, or rather does not mean that you're doing more, which is that efficiency and effectiveness doesn't actually correspond with working hours or hours put in. It's a very very good example for a UPSC aspirant also. A person can sit with a book for 10 hours and a person can sit with 5 hours with the same book. And ironically, the 5 hours person is going to answer more questions because he knew that he or she knew that he had less time, so they will be more efficient and they will be more effective in learning, rather than the person who had 10 hours because they were ready to slack off the 5 hours. Same way, what the Claudia Golden is arguing is that long working hours should not be rewarded and greedy work should not be made the norm. Make sense? What is her basic thesis? What is our understanding? What is the U-shaped curve? Make sense? Very good. Very, very, very good. Now, PCS level examination. Answer, I want 100% coverage. The Nobel Prize in Economics of 2023 was awarded to. Come on. Manisha, sure. Why not? Why not? You can say that it's given them more space to work from home. Why not? Sakshi, all of you who are crying to say that somehow the answer is on this screen itself. Let's see if it's 100% or voila. 3%, 2% and 1%. I don't know. Either you like to answer the either लिखा हुआ है रे Claudia Golden 94%. Good. Right. Okay. Claudia, all are Nobel Prize winners for sure. I made the question like that, but I was not expecting you to not find this and this here. No issues. Can I use Karl Marx's concept of alienation? No, Ilma. His alienation is not in the concept of gender dynamics. It is in the concept of how the workers get alienated from the capitalist system. Totally different concepts. Oh, okay. Now, last two, straightforward. The P20 summit has happened, part of G20. P20 means Parliament 20. Basically, different parliamentarians, specifically speakers of the House, presiding officers, met in India. And it was a very significant event. But what really matters to you again are multiple small concepts which you need to remember. So the 9th G20 Parliamentary Speakers Summit happened, which is called P20. It's happened at Yashobhumi in New Delhi. Now, our speaker, Honorable Om Birla, was the one who presided over it. Now, you need to know 3-4 standard concepts, which is, first is what is the theme? Standard thing which comes in the examination. Parliaments for one earth, one family, one future. This is the first thing which you need to remember, which is the theme. Thereafter, there are things which they adopted. They argued that the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals should be achieved. Sure, very good. Everybody talks about that. But there is a new highlighted concept which they argued about, which is life is beautiful. And Life is Beautiful initiative is about eco-friendly practices for sustainable ecosystem. So very simply, it is a lifestyle which is eco-friendly. Life is Beautiful initiative is the second thing which you need to remember. Another interesting thing was that once the P20 met, a Pan-African Parliament, which is all African nations parliamentary members, met on the sidelines of this P20, which is again significant. Now, yes, you need to remember the number, 9th P20 Summit, theme and initiative. And then there were multiple things which were emphasized. Now, a UPSC aspirant needs to know where to learn and where not to learn. And here you don't need to really learn because these are very generic things which they talked about, which is sustainable development goals, technological transformation, global economic recovery, food and energy security, addressing climate change, what we call as inclusive energy transition, promotion of sustainable production, consumption patterns, peace building, counter-terrorism, global skill mapping, disaster risk reduction, global health. Standard stuff. Don't really need to learn this. All issues actually persist in India till today across the world. What is the difference between P20, G20? G20 is the bigger meeting. Then they have F20, finance ministers meeting, G20, which is P20, parliamentaries meeting, E20, which is economic ministers meeting, Y20, which is youth of these T20 meeting, standard things. Now, this please don't waste your time in. This please don't waste your time in because these are issues which still are. There are only two things which you need to remember. Can you remember it for me? The concept of Life is Beautiful initiative and the first, which is Parliament for one earth, one family, one future. Yes, you can remember it right now, but have to remember it for the examination also. This is the question. Consider the following statements. This is the realistic question. Comes like this. PCS level examination for sure. UPSC from time to time. The theme of 9th P20 Summit is Parliament for One Earth, One Family, One Future. The summit highlighted Life is Beautiful initiative promoting eco-friendly practices for sustainable ecosystem. This seems easy. Still, some of you will obviously answer it wrong, but is a realistic question. Come on. Varam. C by mistake. But Kriti, you answered the answer by mistake correctly. 89%, totally correct. Theme is correct. Life is Beautiful is correct. P20 question mark. Parliament 20, G20, Parliament speakers met, P20. That is what we're talking about. You thought Pan-African. How do I But where is it saying African here? Okay, answer is both 1 and 2. I have no idea how to answer it. But that is the basic point. P20 is implied within G20. Doesn't really matter. You have to remember only this. Okay. Can I go to the last topic? And then we end our session for today? Yes, Manisha, more than enough. But Tamil Nadu board ancient has mistakes also. So I have to be a little bit more wary about it. PPT plus Tamil Nadu board is good. Okay. Yes, B20, business 20. Any 20 is related to G20. Okay. Okay. Now, last but not the least, the Air Force has revealed a new ensign. Ensign, one of you asked me, is basically the symbol which you will find on the flag of the Air Force and also on different establishments of the Air Force. So the 91st anniversary happened on Sunday, last Sunday, and 8th October rather, 8th October. And we had a very beautiful Air Force Day celebration at Prayagraj. And a new Air Force crest was revealed at this in order to remove the old colonial understanding. But there are multiple firsts also in this, what we call as Air Force Day parade in that regard. First was that the Sarang helicopters, which were a 4 helicopter team, have now become a 5 helicopter team doing acrobats in the air itself. Security order means how you create a certain understanding around a certain country in that regard, how you create security establishments. Okay. So first was 5 helicopters. Second was for the first time C-295 transport aircraft, which is now going to be produced in India after it is being produced by Boeing itself, has been shown. It is going to be the next major induction in the Indian Air Force in that regard. It will take the legacy of the MiG-21 Bison forward. So the first is Sarang helicopter, not 4, but 5 helicopters. C-295 transport aircraft has been shown for the first time in the Air Force parade. But the most significant is, for the first time, the Air Force parade was commanded by a woman officer, and she's also the first woman to have a combat position command in the IAF itself. Thereafter, further, we also had a all-women contingent of the Agniveer Vayu women, and the parade also included the Garud commandos, which are people who have completed 20 years of service in the IF, which is very significant that way. Further, multiple citations, which is basically multiple certificates, appreciation certificates, were given to 16 squadrons, to 142 helicopter units and signal units and base repair depots for their contribution. Basically, this is a standard thing in which the Air Force appreciates their establishments. But the most important thing was this, which is a new ensign which has been introduced. And this is the new crest or the ensign which we will use. Now, previously, we used to have what we call as the Royal Indian Air Force concept, wherein the British flag used to be in the corner, the Union Jack, plus you had the RAF ensign, and the RAF colors were also based on the British colors, which is red, blue, and white. This was given up. However, the Indian Air Force symbol had not been integrated. And this has been integrated this time. Now you need to know what are the very interesting things. So the Indian Air Force symbol has the Ashokan lion, the emblem of India, on the top of a what we call as eagle, which represents the way the Indian Air Force acts. It has Satyameva Jayate written, and thereafter the ring of blue, which you see here, is the Himalayan eagle, and the top you have the lion, the emblem. Thereafter you have the eagle. Satyamev Jayate is written here, and under the eagle you have Bharatiya Vayu Sena, which is written. You need to know lion, which is emblem. Then you have the eagle, Satyameva Jayate here, and Bharati Vayu Sena here. Bharati Vayu Sena here, Satyameva Jayate here, and emblem. You need to know this basically removes all forms of colonial understanding which were there on the ensign previously. So 3 to 4 very significant things happened on the Air Force Day. Woman commander, first woman to have a combat unit command, Agniveer Vayu women contingent, C-295 was shown, and over and above that, we have the Sarang helicopters. The 4 were there, now this time 5. And last but not the least, the new ensign. Simple, straightforward point. The Ashokan lion on top with the word Satyamev Jayate in Devanagari. Below the Ashokan lion, we have the Himalayan eagle, spread wing denoting the fighting capabilities of the IF, and the ring with light blue color encircling the Himalayan lion says Bharatiya Vayu Sena. Done? Simple, straightforward question, and we can end for today. The 91st Air Force Day Parade was the first time to be commanded by a woman officer. The IF crescent has the national symbol, the Ashokan, and the left with the words Satyamev Jayate in Devanagari written below it. This question needs keen observation. I'm giving you that minute. Figure it out. Come on, last question. C-295 is a type of aircraft which is now going to be indigenously produced. You want name of the woman officer? Group Captain Shalizia Dharmi. Shaliza Dhami. I will show you leaderboard, don't worry. Very good, 64% you have very keen observation. 29% if you pay attention. This is totally correct. It says Ashokan lion on the left. No. Ashokan lion is on the top of the crest in which Satyamev Jayate is written, and then the eagle is there along with Bharati Vayu Sena. This is incorrect. Not left. See, it says here very categorically. National symbol with lion on the top with the word Satyamev Jayate. This is what you actually need to pay attention in the examination. Need to know these things have become very, very common in the examination. So for the people who have been waiting for the leaderboard, 1 second. Show leaderboard. Okay. Any 90, Parimala 90, we have first 14 are shown always. So we have multiple. We have 1 second. Any Parimala, Ashish, Saba, Bittu, Labdi, Preeti, Aftab, Moin, Divya, Shivam, Ritesh, Sandy, Preeti, Vikram, Megha, Priyadarshi, Amanpreet, Harsha, Gayatri, Aniket. All have been first, so they are all first. I am also there. Sure, you would be, but this is faster finger first type. Whoever answers more quickly comes, right? Don't have to worry about that. Okay. Thank you. 8 topics plus that question on that habitat one. Thank you. Take care. It was really nice seeing you all again. I will see you maybe in ancient medieval art and culture, or I will see you in world history in morning batch, or in modern India in weekend batch. But thank you. Take care. I hope all these 8 are totally clear to you. Too heavy, other smaller topics. And as I said, consolidating the week for you so that it made sense to you. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.